for me, California it's a challenge. And it's a really good challenge because I'm kind of starting over out there. I have to sell between 60 and 90 houses in Detroit. In California, I probably have to do a quarter of that.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals from across the country, brought to you by Windowsill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Katie Wheeler, the co-owner of Match Realty. Katie operates both in the Metro Detroit area and in Los Angeles, California, buying and selling real estate. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. The sun is out, so.
Oh, I know. Finally, we're getting some good weather here in Michigan.
I know.
So tell us your story, how you got started in real estate.
Yeah, so way back when, I was 23, 24, I was in mortgages. So I worked it was Quicken Loans back then, now Rocket Mortgage. I started when I was, 18 or 19 there. And I was just kind of burnt out, with sort of the mundane routine of being in the office for, 10, 12 hours. And, mentally, it wasn't really doing it for me. So I left on a whim, not knowing what I was going to do at all. But a lot of people said, it's an easy transition from mortgages into real estate. Get your real estate license. So I took that test, the course, then the test a couple times. I failed it a few times. So I think on my third try, I finally got it. And then one of my best friends, Miss Bobby May, she actually is a director there at Rocket. She was my first client. She trusted me. We sat next to each other, went through the whole offer together. She bought her first condo downtown. And then it kind of catapulted from there. Luckily I was in a position that I had mortgage knowledge, but as well, a lot of my friends just started buying properties at that age, 24, 25 years old. And I was kind of the go-to girl at that time. And it sort of cycled and, went from there.
That's awesome. And then you eventually started your own business, Match Realty, yes?
Yes. So I actually, right out of the, training and passing of my test of real estate, Keller Williams was the first to call. They're always the first to call, right, for new agents. So I just went with them. And that was working for a little while, but once I realized that I had a pretty steady stream of my own referrals, that system just didn't really work for me. So then I joined a brokerage out of Troy, Michigan. I worked there for almost 4 or 5 years, I think it was. Yeah, about 4 years. And that was amazing because a lot of the people I worked with there, they had a mortgage background as well. A lot of them used to work at Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. So that's kind of really what I would say kickstarted it fully when I became pretty busy. I was working a lot of the leads and clients that no one really wanted to work in Detroit because I live in Detroit proper and I like to sell houses here. So I was a lot busier than I thought I would even be, and then I was when I was at Keller Williams. Fast forward, Cyrus, my husband, co-owner of Match Realty, he was still in mortgages, and I think he was realizing, oh, okay, this might make sense for me to get into as well. And although we've done the same job for many years in mortgage banking and in real estate, we do it very differently. So he then got into real estate and joined that brokerage as well. COVID hit, and of course, so many things had changed with COVID. So we were non-essential for, I think it was about 2.5 months, right? In which that led to us being able to sort of pause, sit back and look to see what we really wanted to do. And at that point, Cyrus sort of took a step back from real estate. I was still very busy. He decided to slow down a bit, and that's when he opened Match Realty. And then the rest is history.
That's so great. And so, do you find was it very natural for you to start working together as a husband and wife? Was there a lot of learning involved? How did that unfold?
Yeah, I mean, like I had mentioned that we've always really done the same job and the same career, but very different ways. Cyrus is very, very patient. He will take a scenario and he will think through it. for a couple hours, maybe a couple days, and come up with the best solution. I'm a little bit more impulsive. So I think that in that kind of flow, we help each other come to the right decisions, 9 times out of 10. So it's very easy to work together. I would not work with, I don't work well with many others, actually. If we're being very direct and specific, we're able to work really well together because we look at things so differently a lot. So yeah, it's been pretty easy, and I don't think I could, you know, ever work with another brokerage actually at this point.
That's awesome. I'm glad everything is going so well, and it just kind of seems seamless. Um, you also are licensed to sell in Los Angeles, California, or that area. What made you decide to get a license in another state?
Yeah, so same kind of scenario of when I was at Quicken Loans. Real estate kind of became very easy to me. I'd been doing it at that point for a couple years, and I joke that I'm kind of the lazy realtor here, where I wake up and someone says, "Hey, Katie, I want to buy or sell a house," or my friends or my family, and I'm so fortunate and grateful to have a really steady stream of referrals. That when COVID hit and we were stuck in the house for 2.5 months, I took my course for California. And then I finally was able to fly out there, failed the test a couple more times, and in true Katie fashion. And then I finally passed it, and I joined a brokerage out there. So for me, California is it's a challenge, and it's a really good challenge because I'm kind of starting over out there. So that was more of a bigger piece of it. The price points too. I have to sell between 60 and 90 houses in Detroit to really connect with as many clients as I want to connect with here. But price points play a huge part in that, and really just to truly make the living that I want to make here. So in California, I probably have to do a quarter of that. Based
Right.
on the price point. So, there's a multitude of things. It's a big challenge, the weather, of course, and the price points for sure.
And so do you find yourself you're going out to California a lot? Like, how are you managing that business from so far away and in a different time
Yeah.
zone and all of those things?
Yes, I'm getting this question a lot, and it's a very lengthy answer. So, where I can start is I actually have not sold a single house in California yet. As of February of this year, is when I've fully been able to sort of buckle down and say, okay, I'm committing to 4 to 6 days out of every single month to be in Los Angeles. And that really began in February. So, what my sort of plan is, and what it's been looking like lately, is I'll land in LA Friday, and try to do an open house on a Saturday and a Sunday out there for the broker I work with, which is Hollywood Estates. Oliver, he's amazing, and such a good, just a good mentee to look up to because he's been doing it for so long with his father. So I try to host open houses there, and then Monday is a little bit more of a lax day where I've been trying to do a little bit of door knocking, sort of real estate, 101 things I did in the very beginning here in Detroit. And then Tuesday, there's some broker opens where, brokers, actual, real estate agents connect and tour properties. So it's a lot more research out there. And then Tuesday night, I fly back on a red eye back to Detroit and land in the morning, usually at like 5 or 6 a.m. So that's sort of been what the routine looks like, and it's working for now. But it's definitely looking like real estate year one here out there for me right now. It's a complete start over. And it's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of cold calling, a lot of just when I'm out there trying to network. So that's what the last couple months and probably the next, year will look like for me out there.
I'd like to take just a moment and tell you about our sponsor. Window Still provides premium real estate media for agents, builders, and property management companies nationwide. To learn more, visit windowstill.com. Window Still, helping America find their next chapter. Now, back to the episode. I think that is awesome, and it's like fascinating because, clearly you're drawn to the Los Angeles area for a lot of probably personal things too. And it's like, how can I incorporate this into my work life?
Yeah.
And you're so established in Detroit, you're doing very well. I can just take 4 days out of the month and do this other thing. I think it's so creative and smart.
Well, the benefit, and I am so grateful for the team that we have here. We're about 10 people on our team, including Cyrus and I, and they're the biggest help. So fortunately, when I'm out there and, if my buyers or sellers want to work on some things, I am able to have some of our agents kind of front end focused with the clients that I have here. So I wouldn't be able to do it without them or without my husband. And that is sort of what the delay was. Match Realty, we got up to about 28 agents. That's more of a Cyrus question, but around about almost 30 agents total. And it was awesome, but it was overwhelming because we had so many new agents and we just didn't have the capacity to really give them our all and really host a lot of the trainings and things like that, beginner agents need. So now we're down to a much smaller team, which really works. We just got a new office, which is super exciting, and we're really working as a true team, and it's a really good thing for me in California.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think it's nice to hear someone say that, building up to a big team wasn't for your business. Because I think in this industry, especially, the prevailing belief is more is more. And so to hear you say, we tried it, it didn't work out, and and that where your sweet spot is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So Katie, you do a lot of speaking events as well, and you have talked on some social media panels. Can you share with us kind of some of those things that you find yourself talking about to a lot of people in the industry?
Yeah, I will start with saying that I absolutely do not like being on panels. I say that jokingly because they're terrifying. Even this podcast is a little terrifying for me. I don't like public speaking. People are always surprised by that. But I go there to learn from the other kind of masterminds that are on those panels each time. And I also, I've been doing it just to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So a lot of the things I like to talk about is especially to newer agents. Your first year in real estate is, terrifying. You're not typically making a lot of money. Usually most people are making a leap from a different career because they're not happy in that career choice or whatever they've been doing. So, I always like to just say, ride the wave. If you're going to say, hey, I'm going to go out and get my real estate license, you have to commit for the full first year. You've got to go to the open houses. You've got to network. You've got to, follow all the other realtors that are already doing it and already established. So a lot of times, though, those panels, I go to sit with 3 or 4 other like-minded people and learn from them. Learn what their morning routine looks like, their evening routine. Learn, what kind of strategies or what kind of issues they're running into. So those panels are really great, but they're very scary for me to be up there talking in front of so many people.
So what are some of your biggest takeaways that you've found from these panels?
Yeah, I have found that most agents that are, in the top 5 or in the top 1%, top 5%, even 10%, they really do have a routine. Those are the agents that are, waking up 6, 7 a.m., sometimes earlier. They're going to the gym. They're working out. They're setting their day up for success, and just very solution focused, right? I think most of the agents that are doing really well in Michigan, they can handle the kind of ups and downs of real estate, right? If it's slower, that's when you're going to sit back and you're going to be planning for the next quarter, the next few months. Or those are the times that, hey, January, February, that's the time you're spending more time with your family. You're, kind of doing some self-care. You're doing your vacation. So most realtors that are doing really well in this market, they're thinking 4, 6, 8 months ahead. So it's about strategic planning. And also, I've learned now doing this almost I think 2017 is when I got my license. So 8 years, 7, 8 years, I think that puts us at, is not taking it personal. A lot of transactions, there are some agents that can really take things personal, and it can affect a transaction in so many ways. So when we're all realizing we're here for the same outcome, and that is for a buyer and seller to be happy and have a good experience at closing, and get to that point, and sort of take the emotion and the personal things out of it. That's sort of the biggest takeaway I've gotten from a lot of these agents.
I think that's great because, it's so easy to get caught up in the roller coaster of it all, and it's can be very difficult sometimes to see past what's right in front of you. And so I think it's a great view to look at the slow months as opportunities for family time, for vacation, and then the uh, busy times or the opportunity to have good business,
Sure.
That's so great. And you have been named one of the top 100 agents of Wayne County by Real Producers. You have sold over 400 homes in your career. Is there anything, looking back and knowing everything you know now, that you would do differently starting out?
Ooh, um, there's so many things I would do differently. There are. There's so many things, but there's also so many things that just don't matter at this point, right? I've tried to make real estate transactions not as transactional, right? Like I always joke, but I'm like, I want to be invited to the barbecue, like after closing, right? Like I want that. But sometimes you have to be a little bit transactional in real estate.
Or how about this? Because I thought you had hit on something very interesting. What are kind of things that concerned you in the beginning of your career that don't concern you now? Because you said, a lot of those things,
Yeah.
they don't matter anymore. What doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah, I think that being worried about the consistency of real estate. It's a fear of everybody, right? Okay, where is my next client going to come from, right? I think when you have to be worried about that, but if you're doing the right things with every single client, and your client knows that you're fighting for them to get the best deal, or if it's on the seller's side of making sure that you're there all steps of the way, because real estate is emotional, and there's situations with divorce, there's people are moving and relocating out of state. That's very scary for them. So you almost become kind of a therapist, right? So I think if I looked back and would change anything, is in the very beginning of my career, not looking at it as transactional, and really getting to know some of those clients a little bit more, and staying more connected with clients, from year one till year now. I think I've done a better job of that in the last probably 3 to 4 years. Where in the beginning, I was moving so fast, and going at such a momentum that it was almost impossible to do. Where Christmas time would come, and I'd say, oh my gosh, I want to get all my past clients, send some of these things out to them, and I wasn't able to do it. And I think a lot of the reason why I'm able to do some of those things more so now is with the help of my team, allowing a little bit of the control to be held with somebody else. If I could do anything differently, I would rely on others a little bit more. I would remind myself that I'm not Superwoman, and I can't be in 17 places at once, and that I do need a little bit of help, right? Whether that's showings, whether that's, admin work on the back end, right? Like now, Tiffany, our transaction coordinator, I look back, I'm like, how did I do this without you? I literally have no idea. I'm in the car for 8 hours a day. She's helping write offers for me. So allowing a little bit of that control to be released is what I would do different.
I think that's great advice because I think so many people who go into this career, they have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think what comes along with that is
Yeah.
these kind of qualities of like perfectionism, like I
Yes.
gotta do it myself. I gotta know every step of the way exactly what's happening. And I love that you shared that that's your lesson. As you're saying it, like I hear so much
Yeah.
of lessons I've learned echoed back at me, even in just little ways, allowing someone to help you, even if it's not professionally in your personal life, things
Absolutely.
like that. It goes a long way. And I think people would be surprised at how willing others are to help.
Yeah. definitely.
That's wonderful. Do you have any most memorable moments with clients, like transactions that really like kind of stick out to you?
Yes. Well, it happens. It happens here and there. I love so much the surprise of, like, just recently this happened. My client purchased a property down in Van Buren, and she had sold her home to become kind of an empty nester and to sort of downsize. But then it sort of worked out where her son, he has five or six kids. I'm going to triple check. And they're all under the age of, I want to say 8. So they decided to combine households, and she purchased this home, and they didn't know. And she was going to surprise them right after closing. So those are always so good to me because I did a similar situation when I purchased my first property. I had bought that house, and my grandma and my mom are very close, and then my mom is the oldest of 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
So we grew up in a very big family, kind of conjoined family in a sense. And the first property I purchased, I knew eventually that that would be their home to live in, so that, my grandma and my mom and her brothers would never have to worry about anything again. So I love the surprises and sort of the things that happen behind the scenes when people are doing those things for others. That's always so amazing to me.
Oh, I love those stories too. So are your mom and grandmother in that home now?
Yes. Yeah. They
Oh,
will
that's so
be in that home
amazing.
forever. Yes. And then my two uncles, which my brother uncles, I call them. So they'll live there till the end.
That's so sweet. Oh, and so great that you can, provide in that way. And in the story of your client that she could provide for her family too.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Speaking of buying and selling, you said that you love operating, in the Detroit area because that's where you're at. What are your favorite things about Detroit?
Oh, it's just an energy right now. I mean, it really has been for like the last, since 2012, even when I was working at Quicken Loans, everything that has happened since, it's just continuously climbing. So I love the fact that I've sold properties now almost 7 years ago, and I've helped my clients resell those properties, and they've made so much more money, right? These are properties even they've purchased and they're fully redone. They haven't had to really move a finger, and they just cash a check right at closing. So that's huge. But really, being in the downtown area where our new office is, you can just feel it. Like, Detroit feels like a different city now. There's so many new, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, everything opening. So to be a part of that, and to be able to kind of witness the growth, it's just been so awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And, I don't have a desire to live, that close to the
Yeah.
city, but gosh, you see the opportunities for houses and they're historic.
Yeah.
They have these beautiful exteriors. They maybe need a lot of interior love, but the opportunity is there and it's so
Yes. And
cool.
I always say too, I work with a lot of investors, from California, New York, Texas, that are purchasing in Detroit. And more times than not, everyone's like, yeah, I'm, a little nervous in Detroit. I don't know. And they come up here and they never leave, right? Like, they end up purchasing their primary here. That happens a lot of times too, where there's people relocating that I've never heard someone, come to the city and leave and say, oh, that was bad. Everyone comes and they're like, oh, Detroit's amazing. So the surprise for them is always kind of interesting to see too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much growing in the city. We just had the draft, and that was like a historic
Yeah,
turnout. So it's a really cool time to be in the Metro Detroit area.
absolutely.
So, Katie, do you have any like goals for this year? I mean, we talked about kind of your California goals, but any other goals for this year you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, it's so funny because my personal trainer actually asked me the same thing today. I'm like, are we talking about like abs that I'm trying to grow? Or are we talking about business wise? But definitely goals with health. For sure that's always in my mind. I got a personal trainer. I have two actually now, one in Royal Oak, one in Detroit. So my goal is to steadily work out 5 times a week. I'm working to commit to that in a personal goal. I'm also going to be training for the Free Press Marathon to run
Oh,
that.
cool.
But real estate wise, this is going to sound so backwards, and maybe some of the other realtors that see this might think I'm crazy, but if I look at goals in real estate, I find myself looking down. So it's way easier for me just to just go, like just keep running. That's how I've always worked, and fortunately, it's worked for me. Cyrus, my lovely husband, he I think creates goals for me secretly, and I don't know about that. And he'll be like, you know that you have 10 closings this month, and I'm like, oh, I do. All right, I'm heading to closing tomorrow. So personal, I've got quite a few goals. Real estate wise, my goal is definitely to sell at least 6 houses in Los Angeles. That is a major goal that I'm very focused on. And I would say here in Detroit is really just getting our team ramped up to where those guys are, closing at least 20 to 30 transactions a year. So really working more tight knit with the team is a huge goal of mine this year.
That's so cool. And then do you have things that you're looking forward to this year? Like any cool trips, your 5 or your marathon?
Yeah.
Was it the marathon?
Yeah, that's in October.
Gosh,
So
that's so, mad respect. Um, I, I don't know if that's ever on my bucket list,
yeah.
but I have a lot of respect for people who put that time in.
Now that I am feeling a little bit better with my breathing, I don't know if COVID really caused issues with my breathing. I think I'm coming to terms that it definitely has. But now that running is a little bit more fun again, I think it'll be good. I think I'll finish really well. But yeah, besides those personal goals, I with real estate, I'm just trying to stay at it and always at least do 1% more each year.
That's awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Would you like to direct people how they can find you, how they can work with you?
Sure. Yes. So my Instagram is your realtor Katie W. Wait, is that my Instagram? I have 2 Instagrams. Let's see. Yes, your realtor Katie W. Your underscore Katie underscore. Wait, your underscore realtor underscore Katie W. You can tell I don't manage many accounts. And then Match Realty, of course, our Match Realty. That's where you're going to see a lot of our social media posts. And really just follow my husband, because he is killing it with social media right now and doing a lot of really great videos. And his is Mr. Cyrus Wheeler, CyrusWheeler. Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. And we'll link it so everybody can find it. Well, Katie, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. This has been The Closing Table, brought to you by Window Still. I'm Kat Schooler. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you are following us on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, hit that subscribe button. And when you do, write in the comments, I've subscribed, and I will personally reply to each and every one. Doing these things helps the podcast out so much, and it helps us find more amazing listeners like you guys. Thank you, and we will see you next time.